We're gonna name this one Special Runs. And Special Runs means a lot of things. I wrote them down. There's a list here. So we're gonna incorporate all of this discussion and we're gonna call it Special Run. It just makes more sense. Let's get down to one thing. Okay. The Les Paul came out in 1952, right? It lasted until 1960. 1960, the Les Paul, as it looks like this, was discontinued. It was redesigned. And the Les Paul continued in 1961. People call it the SG. Now, do you know what SG stands for? SG stands for solid guitar. That's all it stands for. So technically speaking, Les Pauls were redesigned and they just removed the name. And they never decided to give it a new name. They just called it SG. And it caught on. The SG actually has never been out of production. From 1961 till today, it has always been in production. It has never been discontinued. But it's never been named either. So let's talk about names. Because Gibson loves to name shit these days. They really do love to do this. And again, Gibson's marketing department is notorious for doing all kinds of wonderful things and playing around with their customers. I'm going to do a video on 2002 and 2003 to explain that and more specifically how they operate. It's actually not very funny. But let's get into this. The historic line started, they had historics. They had 59s, they had 58s, 60s. Then they expanded. During their expansion, believe it or not, there used to be historic 52s all the way straight through to 61. They did all of them. Every one, every year. Every different thing they did. They had Firebirds. They had the V's, the Carinas. They had everything. They even started doing 67 V's. The historic line was much larger back in the early 2000s. They cut down a lot as 2010, 2011, 2012, and those years came about. So basically, a lot of this shit happened really basically within the confines of 2003 to maybe 2010, around that. They still do a lot of shit today, but back then they did a lot of crazy shit. So let's start out with, everybody wants to know what a Cloud 9 is. We'll do Cloud 9s first. I mean, there's no way to really start first, so we'll just do this. So, Cloud 9. Think of it this way. I'm 48. Right? I work out every day. Right? I don't mind a guitar that's 9 pounds. I don't want a historic that's over 9 pounds. Not a good idea. And a burst, I like them 8.5 to 9. Okay, I don't like them too light. I don't want them too light. I've had light ones. Back in 01, Richie Friedman, Dave Davison, I used to get a lot of stuff from them. They gave me two 01s back then that were like maybe 8 pounds, 2 ounces. They weighed nothing. They were not chambered or anything. They weighed nothing. They were alright, they had great tops and everything like that, but they were too light for me. I don't like the way they sound when they're too light. People complain that they're too heavy. They always complain they're too heavy, mostly from the Nolan era. We're not going to go into Nolan era, but those people, Gibson enthusiasts, knows what the Nolan era is. Those that will not be named. Anyway, I don't like Nolans. Sue me. Anyway. So, I'm 48. But there are people who buy these guitars that are 58, that are in their 60s. These are people, not to say that they're older people and they can't handle it. I'm just saying, some of these guys, they drink a lot, they do a lot of drugs or whatever, they're not into fitness too well, and I don't know, they have a problem. It's like, oh, this fucking thing is so heavy. So, there's just so much lightweight mahogany in the universe and lightweight maple in the universe, and there's just so much you can get the guitar to be so lightweight before you have to start carving it out. Cloud 9 is a chambered historic. Basically, they would chamber out around here, like, I mean chamber, not drill holes. They chambered out. It almost was basically a 335 in a certain way, if you really look at it. As far as them, what they sounded like, I played a few of them when they first came out. You know, I always go to guitar shops and I always check out new shit. So I'm always playing the new shit. They're okay. I didn't mind them too much. You didn't really realize that they were chambered, so to speak, unless you picked them up and said, "Holy Jesus Christ," because they were really light. Sound-wise, though, I didn't really find them to be that much different or that much really of like, oh, I don't like this or I do like this. I prefer them to be solid because they're supposed to be solid and that's the way it is, and it has to be the right way. So for me, Cloud 9s are okay. I never owned a Cloud 9. I never wanted to own a Cloud 9. They stopped making them. Don't exactly remember when, but they did. Can you get a chambered one? You can get anything you want from Gibson today. Anything you want from Gibson. You have the money, Gibson will make it for you. Period. And that's the truth. You know, people fucking, it's the truth. Regardless, Billy Gibbons, for one, used to have a lot of chambered 59s. His I'm gonna have to make two parts of this video. His CC, so to speak, or his collector's choice that they did of Pearly Gates, that wasn't chambered, but the ones they made for him to use on stage were. Not only was the body chambered, but the neck was chambered. Don't ask me how the fuck they did that, but before they put the fretboard on, I'm assuming they chambered the neck. Again, there's very little wood you could take out of a neck, but they did. They chambered the necks. And there's a video you could see of Elwood talking about them. Elwood's his guitar tech. One of the rig rundown fucking things that Premier Guitar does. Go check that out. That was pretty freaky. You can go nuts with the chambered stuff. And one thing I have to say about Billy Gibbons, okay? He uses all kinds of shit. All kinds of shit, you know, and he gets all kinds of custom things done and all kinds of stuff, and he don't care. And I love that because, I mean, you know, he can go to the boundaries of he's traditional, he likes what he likes, but let's see if we can change that a little bit. Let me change this, take this over here, move this over there. Really cool guy. Anyway, so that was a Cloud 9. They were very popular. A lot of people bought them. Older guys bought them. And they're great. There's nothing wrong with them. You know, again, you know how you have 335s and they're called the Burst Killer, and basically it's almost the same fucking thing in a certain way, you know, if you really think about it. So a hollowed out 59 Les Paul is not unheard of and not really terrible. Second up, let's go over Custom Authentics. What's a Custom Authentic? Again, Custom Authentics came out roughly around, I believe, 2001, 2002. What was a Custom Authentic? This was the middle of the road. You have Murphy Aged. You have Custom Authentic. You have VOS, right? In the middle. But a Custom Authentic was designed, or idea was to be, not a lesser version, but a beat up, a used 59. They had Grover Rotomatics on them. That was a telltale sign. Their finish was a little bit different than a VOS, but yet not shiny. Okay. Custom Authentics, I believe, were a little cheaper. I don't remember exactly the price point at that point. Price points, regardless, after 2003, the guitars were around $4,000, $4,500 for 59. You know, 6-7 for a Murphy, whatever. Remember, because I got to do the 2002 video, you'll see what I'm talking about. But anyway, they were okay. Some of them had unpotted burst buckets, believe it or not. And because they were trying out things to, eventually go onto the custom bucket, so they would like, edging on to do things. Not that that matters. It pulled the fuck out anyway, but custom authentics were not bad. I have a 2006, which is NOLA. And I like to look at NOLA and say to myself that NOLA was intended to be a custom authentic, but they decided not to make NOLA a custom authentic. Again, I have just had this comment with somebody on there. Gibson will have special runs. When that special run reaches the limit of where they want to stop it, remember when I say that, they'll have leftovers. What do you do with them? Well, fuck it. We'll put, like somebody said, they put a stinger on them. And then all of a sudden they're not Billy Gibbons pearly gates. They are custom authentic, Murphy, and this, that, ultimate historic. They do that. What else are you gonna do if you have leftover shit? You don't really throw it away, so you got to do something with it. So they repurpose it. They'll do that sometimes. I'm definitely gonna have to make this part 2. 30 over 60. If I'm remembering what that was correct, 30 over 60. What's a 30 over 60? 30 over 60 was something. It was come up by a friend of mine. He came up with the idea of having a 60 neck, so to speak, but yet a little bit thicker. Now this comes around as an interesting thing because what Gibson eventually did is they had different versions of the 60. You had version 160, version 260, version 360. What the hell is that? There is no such thing as a 59 neck. There's no such thing as a 60 neck. When you play original bursts, you will see that the necks all vary throughout the entire years, 58, 59, and 60. They do start to get thinner in certain serial numbers here and there or whatnot, but again, that's not etched in stone. So, Gibson's idea was, well, let's do that. Let's replicate that. So when we have a 60, for people who really don't like the blade fucking neck that we had, and some of them had that, we'll get a little thicker and a little thick. So it's like, we'll do transition models, and that was the idea of having a version 60 and a 30 over 60 was basically, I don't want to say the genesis of that, but to me that was the genesis of that idea. So there you go. This is like 12 minutes now. I know you're saying it's not long enough, but when you load things, it takes a long time. Let's stop this here. I'm going to do part 2.